to episode 8. We're doing financing this time, planning your P&L. So I'm Roger Curlin. This is Miguel Miranda. The overview of this is really, it's our second episode on working with finance. We dealt with the big ticket items, which rent/mortgage, staff, and product. Now we're going to dive down into some of the details. Most small business owners know if they're putting money in the bank or if they're taking money out of the bank. There's not a real understanding I've found across all industries of really all those little pieces and little details. And the reason for that is simple. Most small business owners get into their business, their industry, because of a passion, a knowledge, a skill set. We don't have business degrees, finance degrees, all of those items we need. And so oftentimes if we're not good at it, we kind of shirk really paying attention to it. So what we want to do today is, I don't have a financing degree, but I know enough to be dangerous. And Miguel is so intelligent when it comes to hospitality and things they should be focusing on for finance. So I'm super geeked and happy to have Miguel with me on this particular topic. So kicking this over to you, Miguel, I want to set it up with a question. So businesses are reopening now, and we're not sure exactly when each will reopen, but we're in that phase right now. I really feel there's two competing forces. One is I've got to bring in revenue right now and manage my expenses, and I kind of have this debt that I might have accumulated over here, and that's almost the restart cost too. What are some things that people really need to be focusing on high level on these details? And I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah, actually in the last episode about finance, we probably could have thrown debt as being one of the big ticket items, because for some individuals, part of the challenge they had in the past was they actually might have had a decent P&L or profit loss statement, but their debt load was so high that they had no cash coming in. And so I think that's probably a big situation you take a look at. So to me, a couple of things, high-level items to take a look at and consider is this. First and foremost, if you don't have a good understanding of finance, now you don't need to be a CPA, you don't need to be an economist, but if you don't have a good understanding of finance, one, get one. And I know it's tough. You say, hey, Miguel, where do I find the time? I'm running around. There's amazing resources out there you can go on for free, or even if you work with the chamber or the city, and there's different programs where you can just get a cursory understanding. Tell you what, even Restaurants for Dummies book will give you a good understanding of finance in the restaurant world. That's one. But also, even if you have a great understanding, get a partner that understands it. And so working with a proactive CPA, bookkeeping, finance firm would be a first great step to really see what's happening. Why? Because same as you would own a marketing agency to kind of walk along with you for the marketing plan, someone needs to really have a good idea day to day as to how this whole thing comes together. Again, similar to marketing, we talk about return on investment, ROI. You need to look at your finances the exact same way. And so you would look at, if Roger worked for me as a bartender, I'm looking at him as my return on investment. What does Roger bring to the table? Right? How many guests come in looking for him? You know, is he good with the product? Is he spilling drink all over the place and making mistakes? Is he punctual? Those things have a return on investment for whether I hire Roger or keep Roger employed. If I look at food, right? If I get, maybe lettuce from one purveyor versus the other, well, this one piece of lettuce is always good. It's got nice big in size, great yields, so it helps my food cost. While the other one, maybe they're not quite as good, they're smaller heads, I don't get as much in return. Forget about the base price. There's a return investment why I want to work with this vendor versus that vendor. Right. You have to look at the rest of your finances the exact same way. Your insurance, some of your containers and disposables, all these other things that we sometimes forget. And I kind of see it. I used to have a conversation with my wife, like, hey, we have good income. Where did the money go? And we said, let's go track everything we're spending money on. And we went back and, yeah, we had a couple large expenditures, but that wasn't that many. Then I looked at it, we just got nickeled and dimed on little things that, looking back at it at the end of the month, I realized there wasn't much return on investment on those things. Right. And so we had to get disciplined and start cutting those things out. Same thing for your business, looking at it really closely, saying, what are the little things that are starting to cut away at our profits that I may need to take away and walk away from?
Yeah, one of the things that I think we have to be aware of and ready for, there's a lot of pundits out there, politicians out there that feel like it's spigot on, spigot off. I'm planning for Spigot's been off. Spigot's going to slowly turn back on, because I feel like that's the reality of what we're most likely going to deal with. And if we prepare for that, if the spigot starts flowing faster, quicker, wider, I'm happy with that. But in that planning, to your point, we've got to make sure every single thing that we have on our expense ledger is giving us the ROI, and we have to maximize that revenue. We know we're not going to get the break-even point at 25% occupancy. We know that. But when we get to the 75% reopening phase, that's going to get us closer. But there's opportunities now where if we can find ways to restructure what we're doing on the expense side, we can be a more profitable business in the long run coming out of this. And that's, we went through this pain. We need to bring those silver linings with us. Right. So I think that's so important. But if you don't know your numbers and if you don't look at them, Miguel, you're never going to spot those opportunities. And it is painful, but we go to the dentist. We need to work with a CPA. We need to work with someone. I'm a big fan of working with someone that's a hospitality CPA. And there is a difference. There is a difference.
Yeah. So, and I would say as you go vetting who you're going to work with, and I'd be happy to work with you. This is what we do. So, I'll give you a little plug for myself. But really, whether you work with a firm like ours or other CPAs or whomever, like you said, they have to understand hospitality, and here's why. Numbers on their own there's nothing there. You got to understand what is the story behind the number. If you're working with an organization that understands what the numbers are, then the more insight they can give you. There's very few firms now that are purely just handing the numbers to you. They all call themselves advisory firms. Most CPA firms have an advisory arm. That to me is the most valuable part. With technology nowadays, you can probably automate majority of your bookkeeping. You don't need to have some high expensive expertise to just do your books. A lot of that can be automated through great software out there. So one, do that. If you're just still doing it yourself, your return on investment on your time is not there. So get the software. Yes, you got to pay a couple $100 a month, $200-300 a month to have that software. It will automate. It'll make your life so much easier. But have someone who can do great analysis is really important, for one. Two is how fast they can get you that information. And so back in the day, most CPAs or accounting firms, they would bring you the books at the end of the month, and the rationale was they had to wait for the bank statement so they can reconcile accounts, and then probably about a week or two afterwards to get the information. So think about it. If let's pretend we were open. If you're not going to get April's numbers until sometime late next week, whatever mistakes you did the first week of April, you had 6 weeks to multiply it out to make any adjustments. Having weekly financials coming to you that are clean, that have been reconciled, are really important. And also, if someone's telling you they have to wait for the bank statements to reconcile, you're banking with the wrong bank, because it's all digital. Right. If they don't have statements that come out sooner. So you should be able to reconcile on a weekly basis and really understand what's happening right now with less revenue in hand, right. Whether there's 25% or 75%, or even if you're open 100%, but you're not sure what that volume is going to look like, you need to be able to turn on the dime and make adjustments to either menu items you have are costing you too much, or schedules that are costing you too much, or maybe other costs or structures coming in, or potentially a balloon payment coming down the pipeline you hadn't seen or haven't expected, and didn't do a great cash flow analysis. You need someone working with you that can get you the information quickly and you can make an adjustment.
Yeah, an example is the PPP. So people are actually starting to get the PPP now. Correct. And in 6 months, payments will be due on the PPP. What I always look at is we've got to look at the incline. What is the growth incline that we're on? Where's our new break even? Because there is a new break even. We got used to our old break even. We've got to rethink that process. I also think a valuable exercise is to list all your annual and ongoing expenses. And as you said, you looked at household and said, where can we cut our expenses? Where are we not getting ROI? I always tell people, though, be careful of mirages. Oh, that's a big expense. I need to get rid of that. Well, understand your ROI for that, because that thing that you're about to redline may be the thing that comes back to you twofold as a benefit. So really, it's not always apples and oranges when it comes to that list.
Yeah, no, clearly. I mean, you're going to hear us say it a lot, and we say it in a lot of different categories. But ROI wins the day. Return on investment, you have to take a look at it. If you were purely looking at the expense dollars, then I would make it real simple for you. Shut down, you won't spend any money. That was your basis.
Right.
Your basis is really, what's going to come back? I mean, think about it from a guest point of view. Why do they come to you versus the pizza shop down the street?
Right.
ROI, same thing. I'm going to spend $12 on a pizza here. I'm going to spend $12 on a pizza down the street, or maybe 13 or even less. Why do I keep coming back? Because I'm going to have return on my investment.
Right.
The quality of the pizza, the taste is going to be there, the ambiance, the experience.
Right.
Your customers are doing it with you. And if you're successful and you're busy, it's because you're giving a great return on investment for those people who are putting up their money and their time and their attention
right.
towards you. You need to look at your business the exact same way, saying, whatever I'm spending on, what am I getting in return? And I'm telling you, do it top to bottom with your food. Some of you guys are in love with certain menu items. Like this, I love this. This is grandma's recipe, but it's not getting you anything in return.
Right.
Time, energy to prep it. You're not really selling much of it, or the cost is too high. You need to look at everything being return on investment. Now, it's not being completely dollar sensitive on everything you
right.
do. It has to be on brand. It has to fit. But if you don't understand your return on investment on anything, you're not going to be in business for long, or at least as profitable as you should be. And right now, we're in times where you can't afford to not be profitable.
Well, and price shopping. So we as hospitality owners have so many things to do on a daily basis, weekly basis. Price shopping is not always on the top of the list, but it's a very valuable thing to do. I say at least a couple of times a year, maybe quarterly, to find out what you're paying for who, what, where, may it insurance, services, cable, internet, all of these different expenses we have, and product, and shop and see if you can get some better prices. There are businesses out there that are as needy and as necessary to rebuild their customer base that there may be great value and great deals out there. I also want to look at spending to make. So maybe that new piece of kitchen equipment is going to save you a ton of prep time. Yes, it's an expense right now, but maybe if you're able to do that, it's going to save you money in the long term. So as we look at the P&L, that may be something. I also want to talk a moment about labor costs, right? It's one of the heaviest costs for our hospitalities, and I call them semi-fixed. So you know your expense for your labor down to the penny on a monthly basis. But I call it semi-fixed because the actual value that you get from that staff person does fluctuate. Right. You're paying the cook to cook one burger or 20 burgers in the same period of time. And so that affects the cost and the pricing and everything else. And so I want to make sure that people are really looking at that labor cost, and that's where technology could come into play. And so maybe, Miguel, a couple of your thoughts on that aspect.
So labor-wise, I like spending money on labor when a machine can't replace it. And you're probably thinking, well, there's a lot of things machines could replace. You can cook for you, you can you can take an order. What it can't take care of is the heart. And so where does that come in? Usually around service, but it also comes around cooking, maintaining. You can realize that, hey, you can see the care felt through the food. You hear the love in the food. Those situations, I want to spend money, and I want to make sure I'm spending the right amount of money with the right people. But there are aspects of your labor model you look at and realize, I can easily replace that with something that's automated and it's cheaper.
Right.
And that could come across as heartless, and that may be costing jobs. But right now, we're looking at your brand, which I've said before in other episodes, is the boss, not you. And so what does the brand deserve? Well, the brand deserves an amazing future. And part of that amazing future is a profitable present. And so potentially changing out some of the processes to reduce down on labor is a great way to go. For example, you probably see if you go to like a Wawa and you watch their stand, one, you have the computers, but if you look at in their prep area, all their containers, all their pans are actually wrapped in plastic. Right? And so all the food's actually inside the plastic bag, which sits inside the third pans and the sixth pans and things like that. Why is that in place? Well, one thing you don't see much in a Wawa is a dishwasher. Right now, you would think, well, back in the day when minimum wage was lower, you can say, well, dishwasher's not that expensive. The cost you're going to have on replacing all those bags and everything else is a lot cheaper. Well, as the cost of labor is going up, one, minimum wage is going to push it up. I've shared in prior episodes, we have clients that minimum wage is already, for instance, Minnesota is already at $11, heading on its way to 15 in 2 more years. But the dishwashers in Minneapolis are not making $11 an hour.
Right.
They're at $16 an hour.
Right.
They're $5 above the minimum wage already. So think about it, extrapolate it out. How many dishes do you really require to be washed? and how much money do you have to overcome that price. So you may look at some changes where you have disposables and things like that. Granted, we know there's money involved in that. There's also an ecological impact. You may decide what you want to do for your business, but take a look at it. What do we change out? So what different kind of equipment will help you out? But I like spending money on labor where I think a computer cannot replace it. You want heart coming through it, and those situations should be great. Other than that, look to replace.
And in Florida, that's on the ballot. This fall, 2020, and it's passed almost every other time. It's going to pass. So look for those costs are going to go up. So make sure you're balancing that correctly. The other thing I like doing, especially now that a lot of restaurants have become more intelligent on the profitability and how to run to-go and delivery. There are a lot of them that it was just kind of, here at the end. They've become really, really great at it now, which is awesome. Another one of those silver linings. So I recommend really parsing out your different revenue streams. So your delivery, your to-go, your catering, your dine-in, your event rentals. Maybe you sell swag. Maybe there's loyalty rewards. Make sure you know all those different categories and what they're bringing to you, because there are different cost analyses and profitability that goes with each one of those. And so you've got to really know which each of those is doing for you.
Not only what they're bringing from a totality point of view, but from an item point of view as well. If you look at the menu mixes for takeout, it's very different probably from dine-in. And so you have opportunities to offer a variety of different things. There's people have said, you have to offer the exact same thing in-house as you do online. No, you don't. You do what you want, by the way. You can change pricing. You can have certain items that are only available in the restaurant, and some are available only for takeout. You can figure out which. So looking at a great analysis of what's working, what's moving, and when it's moving is really key. Another thing you want to take a look at from those different revenue streams is, in the past, if you want to do an online, if you want to do a takeout, generally you had to show up or you had to do a phone call. And so what did that mean? The phone banks, this is back in the 90s, whatever, if the pizza places, they're all answering the phones Friday night, trying to take as many orders as possible and get the delivery kid. That's not required anymore. There's technology that you can actually push forward, either online ordering, where you have some great partners you can work with to automatically integrate that for you. Even if you're using delivery services like Uber Eats or Grubhub, there's third parties that can integrate into your point of sale, which goes right into it. So really, it helps you reduce the amount of people you need to take care of the things for you, as well as look at your layout. And pre-crisis, those are already happening. I think post-crisis, they're going to happen even more because of social distancing, where some of the takeout stuff was already put on certain areas, and the delivery drivers, as well as the guests, could just go there, pick it up, and walk away, and it required less interaction with the staff. Again, social distancing, that works, but also from the point of view, it doesn't require you to have more staff to just hand someone some food.
Absolutely. In my opinion, Miguel, and again, I always go opinion of one when I'm talking where there is a divergence of thought. I say try and keep as many revenue streams active as possible. For me, we don't know when the next crisis will come. We don't know when we may lose one or more of those revenue streams again. So being really talented in multiple revenue streams is a good thing, as long as it doesn't interfere with the brand you've created, right? You've seen fine dining restaurants have rocked it. Some of them have rocked it with delivering amazing, high-end, fine meals during this time. So I think it's open for everybody to think about all these different revenue streams. And to me, it increases the loyalty in the base that looks to you as somebody providing great food. And that's my opinion. My caveat is, make sure you're doing an above average job at all of those. Don't choose one of those streams to say, I've checked the box. But people say, oh my God, if you dine there, amazing. If you get the food delivered, not so good.
Yeah, actually, we had, we've got some takeout recently at a local barbecue place. And one thing I loved it was we actually ordered. We did go to the counter, but this is takeout. When they called our name, we were brought back up to the counter. They turned the to-go box, opened it up, and they opened each box up, and they confirmed with me, this is what you ordered, yes, this. We had all the sauces we needed. They closed back up, bagged it up, and we went our way. I walked away saying, holy cow, that was amazing. Yeah. I got what I needed, because again, part of the biggest issue, and I think there was, Lethal Weapon, one of the German jokes was that you kind of get screwed over, going through the drive-thru, because you find out, down the road, a couple miles down the road, or when you get home, that something you ordered was not put in there, or it was mixed up. And so they looked at it saying, what could possibly go wrong? How could we hurt the guest experience that we're so careful to take care of when someone dines in on a takeout situation, and they thought about it less creatively, which is a very simple way. Connect with the person and let them know this is what we have. And I've worked with a lot of restaurants that I took that and I need to implement that in the restaurants I work with,
right.
Because we actually had the same issue. Because of speed, we miss some of the things that should be put in there.
Yeah, and I love that. And that makes sure that you don't have a mad customer. It makes sure that they're going to come back to you again. There's so many and critical check marks for that. Menu and pricing is going to be another episode that we're going to do, Miguel. But I think it's worth noting in this episode that it is the critical piece which decides your profitability performance. And now is the best time to get your menu rebalanced. So talk about your P&L. The menu rebalancing is so critical to making sure that you're performing and you're profitable. So we're going to have a great time with that episode. Know your numbers, if not on a daily basis. I say it definitely a weekly basis, because that allows you to be nimble and adjust. And because we've got a new era we're going to walk through for a while, and we've got to be really smart about what's going on. And then the P&L statements are also a critical piece to renegotiate leases. Maybe you got to get a small loan, know when your profit line item is crossed, and then also to me it's a way to justify the pricing of the business. If you're looking to sell your business, you've got to have that stuff tight and tell the stories behind the why. Any last thoughts on this episode?
You will, a lot of times you're probably thinking of your day as getting busy, and you've got to take care of a lot of fires and a lot of emergencies. And generally your finances are the ones that kind of get left behind. You'll take care of at midnight after you're done after a long day's work. I will tell you that in this past crisis, I can easily name a couple of businesses that I'm aware of, that I've interacted with in the past, that were unable to take care or take advantage of what was available to them because they didn't have easily accessible, clean numbers.
Great point.
And they're right now in a position where they probably won't be able to reopen, not because it was a bad business, not because the customers didn't like it. It was because they couldn't pivot fast enough on some of the simple things. And this is beyond, hey, I applied for PPP and I couldn't get it. This is other things available to them. Even some of the help they're going to get from the landlords, things they're being asked of,
right,
that didn't stay on top of the numbers. And their CPAs at this point are still dragging to try and figure out what it was that they actually did.
Right.
And it's hurting them. And so it's something you've got to stay on top of. And if you do it on a weekly or daily basis,
right,
it doesn't become that hard from a long-term point of view.
Right. Great point, Miguel. I love that. So that concludes episode 8 for us. We'll see you on episode 9 shortly. Thank you, everyone.